What's up, Sanisa, Superbad Estrada here, and I just want to give a huge special shout out to the relay. Thank you so much for all of the continuous support, and thank you for all of the support during and after and before every single fight.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Well, Charles Martin, former IBF champion Charles Martin, had this to say. He says, drop the IBF belt, let me fight Pulev for vacant title. Charles Martin is the IBF's second-ranked contender and would face the top-rated Pulev for that championship if Joshua vacated it. Not that he's going to.
No, right?
Eddie Hearn, Joshua's promoter, intends to reschedule the Joshua versus Pulev bout. The new date for Joshua versus Pulev won't be determined until the British government permits fans to attend sporting events.
Or unless they can find an alternative abroad.
As far as I'm concerned, that's the least he can do for me. Martin told BoxingScene.com, I made his entire career. Without me, Anthony Joshua doesn't exist. I didn't train a day for him, and went into his backyard hurt for my first defense. The not training part is on me because I thought Joshua was just another chinny, overrated bum. To this day, I know I was right about that chin.
Hey, why do these guys think that by saying they didn't train for a fight, that makes them look good?
I don't know, to be honest. Makes him look fucking stupid. You know, what's the logic supposed to be? What do you want us, the boxing fans, to say? Oh, if Charles Martin would have trained for the fight, he probably would have won.
Yeah, nobody's gonna say that.
Joshua is going out of his way to fight Pulev because he says he don't want to give me my title back. This man should be more grateful. Let me knock Pulev out, and then you do for me what I did for you. Come to the United States and face me. This guy owes it to me. If I didn't go to the UK, Joshua would have waited years for a title shot, and he knows it.
If Joshua wouldn't have given you a multi-million-dollar payday, you would have waited years for that. It's the only reason you got on a plane in the first place.
That has nothing to do with anything, right? Because you were already swimming in money, fighting the likes of Rafael Zimbano Love and Vyacheslav Glaskov, right?
Right.
What big fights, big paydays for Charles Martin. I promise I will correct my mistake and knock Joshua out. Winner takes all. This ain't about money, it's about revenge.
No, it's about money.
I mean, this is prize fighting, right?
Last I checked.
Hasn't changed, has it? This isn't even the first time that Charles Martin has gone on some kind of a delusional rant or delusional tirade that exhibits some form of mental instability. And maybe Charles is mentally touched.
Maybe.
Or maybe he is just another heavyweight struggling to be relevant at a time when primarily 5 guys dominate the conversation, 4 or 5 in the heavyweight division. 5 guys, the same 5 guys, and you're not one of those 5 guys. Anthony Joshua is one, Tyson Fury is another, Deontay Wilder's in that conversation, but so is Dillian White, and to a lesser extent, Andy Ruiz, who got himself a lot of attention for a time, though time itself will tell as to how long that attention will last. Charles Martin, he don't make that short list.
He ain't in that conversation.
Which is why he has resorted to what appears to be little more than just trolling. Begging Anthony Joshua to vacate the IBF title so that he could fight Kubrat Pulev for it instead when, hey, Pulev earned his shot whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not. He fought his way to get into position to challenge Anthony Joshua. And if what you're waiting for
is for him to vacate,
is to vacate the title at a time when the conversation at heavyweight is primarily dominated by the next undisputed heavyweight champion, I hate to break the news to you, but you're going to be waiting a long time. You've got to fight your way into position the same way that Kubrat Pulev did.
no shortcuts.
Begging for a handout does little more than make you look quite the fool.
It's stupid.
It is. It's fucking stupid to sit there saying that I lost the fight because I didn't train.
Why not?
As a means to diminish Anthony Joshua's victory over you. It's stupid to sit there and say that when all that does is make you look like a fucking idiot. Why didn't you train? What are you, taking a page out of Andy Ruiz's playbook? Now you're saying, well, I didn't bother to train for the fight either, and that's why he beat me. Well, that's still your fucking fault. That even if everything you say is true, it's still on you as to why that happened. Because hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And what you're saying is, you didn't work hard.
Okay, and whose fault is that?
That's assuming I believe this cockamamie excuse from Charles Martin.
Which I don't.
A look at the IBF's current heavyweight rank standings lends insight into why is it exactly that Charles Martin wants to cut ahead in the line. Charles is likely going to have to fight in one more final eliminator in order to become the next IBF mandatory challenger, as here today there already is one, Kubrat Pulev. In that situation, the IBF would likely order the next available contender to fight with Charles Martin. Next guy behind Charles is Usyk, but Usyk is spoken for, and he doesn't need the IBF to get him that title shot. He's already got a title shot via the WBO, so he's out. The next guy after Alexander is Michael Hunter. That fight's a lot more possible than Martin versus Usyk. Martin versus Hunter could happen if the IBF orders it, though Michael Hunter's on the right side of the street to get a lot of different fights.
Besides Charles.
Could get a Parker fight at some point, you know. But Michael Hunter is a possibility. Behind Michael is Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz, who's supposed to be locking horns with Chris Arreola sometime in the near future. Afterwards, I could see the IBF ordering Charles Martin versus Andy Ruiz as a final eliminator to crown their next mandatory challenger. And for both guys, that essentially gives them what they want. Charles wants a rematch. Andy wants a rubber match. They have to go through each other to get it, and the fight is feasible because they're both on the same side of the street. They're both under the PBC banner. Now, if the IBF were to, for some reason, order Martin versus Hrgovic, you know, Michael passes on the fight and Andy passes on the fight, and they've got to keep going down the ranks to Philippe Hrgovic, I'll tell you that Charles Martin's shit out of luck. I'll tell you that I'd pick Philippe Hrgovic to beat the fucking brakes off of Charles Martin. That's how that would happen. Past Hrgovic, we see the name of Joseph Parker, we see the name of Derek Chisora. I'll tell you that the only guy in the top 10 ranked standings that I'd give Charles Martin good odds to beat is Tom Schwartz. Tom Schwartz, he's got some legal issues right now, some domestic violence issues that need reconciliation. That's about the only guy that I think Charles stands a good chance of knocking off.
That's it!
This is why Charles wants to be fast-tracked to a world title shot or a world title opportunity or whatever the fuck it is he wants. But this is why. Because of what he's going to have to go through in order to become the next IBF mandatory challenger. This is why he's making all of these asinine requests and goofy fucking comments that aren't likely to happen at all. This is the explanation. Because it's not a given that he secures that mandatory spot, not based on the IBF's current rank standings. So the most that he can do right now is to beg for Anthony Joshua to vacate his title and allow him to fight Kubrat Pulev for it. And that's not gonna fucking happen, but that's why Charles Martin is saying what he's saying. Moving on. IBF super middleweight champion Caleb Plant has this to say. He says, I control the 168-pound division, not Canelo Alvarez.
When did that start?
With ample time to prepare, Plant said he will give Alvarez the fight of his life. I feel that I am the best 168-pound champion that there is. I'm the most well-rounded. I have the best boxing IQ. I have all the tools to beat every champion. All of them are good at this and that, but they can't make the adjustments that I can, Plant told BoxingScene.com in an interview. Canelo is not controlling 168. I'm controlling 168. I'm going to be right here for a minute. When all of the middleweights move up to 168, I'll be waiting for them.
Plant is looking to reignite conversations with Team Alvarez to prove who truly is the best super middleweight in the world.
I want a unification match, said Plant. I'm not doing any catch weights or 10-round fights. I'm a world champion, 12-round fighter who will fight in my weight class at 168. I'm 13 pounds away from the weight right now. I'm in shape. I've been running. The only thing that I haven't been doing is sparring because we have a pandemic on our hands.
Well, all right.
So Caleb Plant wants a unification match, and I have no issue with that. That's what you want to see from a fighter. That's what you want to see from a world champion who wants to take on other world champions. We know that Caleb hasn't had much luck in the David Benavidez department. For those interested in why that is, we talked about it in a previous video, and I'll leave the link to it in the description box. But yes, you know, Caleb doesn't seem to be having very much luck in the David Benavidez department. Doesn't seem to be having much luck in the Canelo Alvarez department as well. But there still are two other world champions at 168 that Caleb Plant should look into fighting, should target.
Hey, should.
Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders.
They've got belts.
Fighting any one of them would do more for Caleb's claim that he controls 168 pounds.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Since when?
Hey, according to Caleb, he controls 168, not Canelo. Make of that what you will. But I think that it would go a long way towards legitimizing that claim if Caleb Plant were to lock horns with either Callum Smith, who's looking to fight big names based out of America.
Won't you get that guy on the phone?
Because Callum Smith needs a big fight just as much as Caleb Plant does. And with 4 separate guys holding 4 separate belts, The truth is, nobody's controlling anything except for Canelo. He's the only guy anywhere from 160 to 168 to 175 with the kind of earning power and marquee value to operate independently of everyone else on his own terms. Caleb Plant can't say that, neither can David Benavidez, Billy Joe Saunders, or Callum Smith. So until these guys start mixing it up with each other, nobody's controlling anything at 168.
Nobody but Canelo.
Caleb Plant has been very vocal the last couple of days in reference to that potential Canelo-Alvarez fight and how he doesn't plan on making concessions. No 10-round fights, no catch weights.
No short notice fights.
He's a world-class fighter, he's a world champion, and he's not going to concede to anyone else's terms. And you know what? He's at liberty to make those assertions.
It's his prerogative.
I think you meant prerogative.
Whatever.
But if Caleb Plant wants to keep beating his chest like a drum and telling everybody that he's in the driver's seat, he is the one in control.
Yeah, right.
Those are going to continue to be hollow statements until he has the marquee value that drives that point home. And here and now, he doesn't have it.
He controls 168.
At this point, those kinds of statements border on trolling. High-level trolling. I don't know if this is some kind of speak it, relieve it.
Believe it.
Believe what?
Caleb Plant runs 168 pounds.
I don't believe that.
I didn't say you did.
So then who does?
Caleb Plant.
Yeah, he doesn't believe that shit. He's just trying to speak it into existence. Chalk it up to wishful thinking. As Caleb Plant actually ran 168 pounds, I think he would have been able to secure a fight, a unification match with a guy who fights under the same promotional banner as he does. But that David Benavidez unification fight remains elusive. So Caleb, he doesn't run anything, and he knows that.
Mauricio, I'll come straight onto this point. There's been a lot of talk this week about Tyson Fury potentially becoming a WBC franchise champion. Can you clarify this statement?
We have not received any communications, any requests regarding Tyson Fury. Fury is the WBC heavyweight champion. He's got a commitment to fight Wilder on the third fight. And of course, there's the mandatory commitments for the mandatory defense. But there's too many things going on. Everybody's talking, but we do not rule on media.
Yeah, I'll clarify this. So, of course, Fury has to beat Deontay Wilder. Anthony Joshua has to beat Kubrat Pulev for that Fury-Joshua undisputed fight to be made next year, right? Which has been agreed on financial terms. But Dylan has got a WBC shot by the end of February next year. So if Joshua and Fury fight twice next year, where does this leave Dylan White?
We are not familiar in any way on the terms for anything other than Tyson Fury having Wilder as his next opponent because of the contract they have. And then we have a mandatory contender. We have not received any communications whatsoever from the promoters. That's where the WBC stands right now. And we will wait.
Mauricio Sulaiman really is the king of talking a lot, talking quite a bit, without saying very much. Oh, here and now he's saying that no formal requests have been made to see Tyson Fury becoming the next WBC franchise champion.
Not right now.
But I myself, not expecting those requests, those petitions to come about here and now. Not ahead of what is to be Wilder versus Fury 3. I expect that Tyson Fury's current status as the WBC's heavyweight world champion to still be intact ahead of that fight. It's after that fight I'm expecting they make this move. Sometime late this year or early next year as the deadline for Tyson Fury, provided he's still champion next year.
If he is.
As that deadline rears its ugly head and the time comes to satisfy his mandatory challenger, Dillian White.
That's when.
That's more or less when I'm expecting such a move to be made.
Not here and now.
Here and now, if Tyson Fury petitioned for franchise status and he were awarded said status, said designation, that'd fuck the Wilder fight all up. Because then Wilder can't fight for the title that he just lost, as franchise status is non-transferable. But if Wilder would have upset the plans for Tyson Fury, even if Wilder would have go in there and shock the world, knock out Tyson Fury, he wouldn't be the WBC's heavyweight champion. He'd be in possession of a diamond belt, a trinket, but not the actual world title that can be unified with the world titles of other organizations. These guys aren't going to fuck that fight up petitioning for that status here and now. No, that's what you do after that fight, if it comes to that.
If you can't get Dillian White to simmer down.
And that's essentially what Bob Arum was saying a few days ago. But if Dillian White tries to push for this thing, that's what it might come to. It might come to Tyson Fury becoming a franchise champion. And we're not there yet.
Not today.
All of this won't come to a head until late this year or early next year. Still time in there to try to convince Dillian White to step aside. I don't know why, as even if you got Dillian White to step aside, Anthony Joshua's got his own engagements to sort out. If he makes his way past Pulev, he's still got to deal with the winner of Chisora versus Usyk, and the Usyk people are saying they're not stepping aside. They're standing firm, and they want their title shot. WBO president Paco Veracel doubled down on that sentiment when he tweeted that he'd love to see Anthony Joshua fight Tyson Fury next, but who he should be fighting is his WBO mandatory. His WBO mandatory, right now it's Usyk.
Right now.
If Usyk makes his way past Derek, or Derek upsets Usyk one way or another, the winner will be the WBO's mandatory challenger. Thus, this needs reconciliation. This is what I was always telling you. All this celebratory news about
undisputed
Anthony and Tyson agreeing in principle to terms, it's premature. There's more work needs doing.
And that's just Joshua's end of the spectrum.
Back to the WBC. What Mauricio Sulaiman is saying here and now is subject to change. We all know that. So he's not actually providing any assurances that Tyson Fury and his people won't petition for franchise status and that said status will be awarded to him sometime late this year or early next year. What he's saying here and now, that could easily change. A couple of weeks, couple of months down the line. So even if, here and now, a formal request hasn't been made yet, there's plenty of time between now and February 2021 to make such a request. If you need any more credence added to that notion, consider Tyson Fury's recent comments per a tweet from Michael Benson. It won't be a belt dictating to Tyson Fury. Belts are really just pieces of leather with some fancy metal stuff on them. When you've beat all the top men, you can have a belt that says dog shit on it if you want. You're still the champion. I told you guys that Tyson Fury won't stand for ceremony, and that's what he's communicating here.
Why else would he be saying that?
He will not be dictated to based on the obligations associated with what is, at least to Tyson Fury, a piece of leather.
That's what he called it.
Why do you think he called it that? I'll tell you why he called it that. Because he's prepared to chuck that thing in the air as soon as it becomes an inconvenience to hold. And that's what I always told you, that at minimum, it's a possibility.
Just something to think about.